So now we're going to talk about purchasing service credit. All of you that are in plans A, B, C, and D may be eligible to purchase service credit to add towards your years of service. Some would say, why do you want to purchase service credit? Well, like Stephanie was talking about earlier, when we compute your retirement benefit, age is the #1 factor, then years of service. So the more years of service that you have, the higher your benefit can become. Purchasing service credit also, this type of service credit that I'm going to talk about, can also help towards meeting that 25-year minimum requirement for your health insurance subsidy. So all of you that are in plans A, B, C, and D, if you started with the county as a temporary employee prior to becoming permanent, that service did not count towards your LACERA membership. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but we do get a lot of people that come into the counter and say, hey, I started working in 1986. LACERA, my department is saying my continuous service date is this date, but you guys only maybe have 20 years of service for me. Why is that? Well, that's because as temporary employees, you were not eligible for LACERA membership. Once you became a permanent employee, your membership with LACERA was 1 month following your permanent date of hire. So if you were temporary and you are in a contributory plan, you can buy those months, years of service to add towards your years of service with LACERA. Purchasing the service credit is simply paying back whatever the contribution would have been, plus the interest the money would have earned had it been on deposit with LACERA. So everybody's calculation is going to be different. We do have previous service applications that I can hand to you guys if any of you had any temporary service that you may be interested in purchasing, and you fill it out and then we'll send you a cost for it. For all of those, again, in contributory plans only, that's who I'm talking to at this point. If you, during your career, were off of work due to an illness, injury, you were sick without pay, you were not receiving any earnings from the county through payroll, LACERA was not able to collect a contribution from you. So that type of time may be missing from your service credit as well. That's what we would call sick without pay. All you would need to do is provide to us a doctor's verification saying that you were under a doctor's care. We don't need to know what you were off of work for, and the application requesting to buy the time, and we can bill you back for that time as well. If you were ever a county employee, say, right out of high school, you started for a little bit of time, and then you terminated county service, withdrew your contributions, now you come back into county service, you can redeposit those withdrawn contributions plus the interest, again, the money would have earned. All of this time, again, counts towards the minimum vesting requirements that you need. So if you only have 4 years, 8 months, you bought 4 months of temporary time, restoration time, sick without pay time, that time counts towards vesting, and it counts towards your health insurance subsidy. Another type of service credit that you can buy for contributory plan members is what we call other public agency credit. If you worked for another public agency within the state of California and you are not eligible to collect a pension from that system, you can actually buy that time as well with LACERA. If you were ever in the military, not eligible for a pension, active duty service only, providing LACERA a copy of your DD-214, you may be eligible to purchase that service, or if you work for the federal government. So again, all of this time is going to count towards your retirement when we're talking about increasing your retirement benefit, and it also counts towards that 25 years when we're talking about the 100% subsidy for health insurance. Unfortunately, the military, federal, and other public agency time does not count towards vesting. So if you have 4 years, 8 months of county service and you bought 4 months of the other service just to get to 5 years, it doesn't count towards that vesting requirement. You actually have to have 5 years of county service in order to be vested and eligible for a future retirement benefit. Okay. There are several different ways for you to pay for your purchasing of service credit. The ideal way is lump sum payment. So if you're contributing to Horizons Great West, you can use that money from that system and roll it over to LACERA system to pay for your service credit. There's no tax penalties, there are no fees to transfer the money from one system to the next. Or you can do monthly payroll deductions. So basically, if you are in a contributory plan, you already see that LACERA is taking out a deduction from your paycheck. That's what we call normal contributions. If you entered a payment contract, we would then consider those other contributions. So you can do normal contributions plus monthly payroll deductions coming from your paycheck in order to fulfill your contract and pay your LACERA normal contributions. You can do a combination of a lump sum and monthly payroll deduction. Say, for example, the ARC is going to cost you $100,000, but you only have $80,000 in your Horizons account. You can roll over the entire $80,000 and then do the other $20,000 in payroll deductions. Or you can take the $80,000 and just buy whatever it gets you and then do the rest in payroll deductions. If you were to enter a before-tax payroll deduction contract, it is irrevocable. It's reducing your taxable income, so it is a contract that you will remain in as long as you are an active county employee. If you choose an after-tax payroll deduction, you may be able to alter that contract. Unfortunately, you do not get a tax benefit by entering one of those contracts, but some people may want to enter that contract because, say, for example, their payments are $200 a month and they know that they're going to come into a lump sum of money from maybe an inheritance or something like that, and they want to pay off the contract prior to the contract's terms, then you may want to enter an after-tax contract. Keep in mind, if you entered a contract and you used any monies from a before-tax source and then entered an after-tax monthly payment contract, LACERA will still look at it as a before-tax payment contract. So it probably would not be any benefit at all as to doing a partial lump sum with before-tax monies and then doing payroll deductions with after-tax monies. A lot of people have the question as to what happens if I enter this contract and now I terminate county service or retire sooner than I expected to. Not a problem. LACERA will allow you 120 days, which is about 4 months from your effective termination or retirement date, to pay off the balance of that contract. So what happens is once you terminate county service, we do get a report from the Auditor Controller's Office letting us know that you've terminated county service, and then we'll send you out a letter indicating that you had this outstanding contract, and do you want to pay off the balance of the contract, or do you want us to prorate the contract? Now, when we're talking about paying off the balance or prorating, some contracts have some, there are some rules. If it's an ARC contract, we can prorate that contract and prorate it based on what you've already paid to LACERA and then give you the service credit accordingly. If it's a redeposit contract, it's an all or nothing contract. So what happens is LACERA says you either have to pay it off or we refund you all the money and we take away that service credit, okay? So those are the things that you might want to think about if you're thinking about entering a contract. We can accept funds from any source. So if you had another retirement system where that money probably is not going to do you any good or the benefit is not going to be as great as your county benefit, you can roll those funds over to LACERA, anything except for a Roth IRA. Now, the million-dollar question, do I have to remain in Plan E if that's the plan that I chose at the time I became a county employee? The answer to the question is no. There are two ways that you can transfer from Plan E to D. The first way is what we call a traditional open window plan transfer. That's an all or nothing contract. You're paying back all your years of Plan E service credit at the age that you began your career with the county, plus the interest that the money would have earned had it been on deposit, and you go from Plan E to Plan D. You can pay for that again lump sum, payroll deductions. There are several different ways that you can pay for that as well. If you pay a lump sum, the minute LACERA receives a lump sum, you are considered a Plan D member. If you do payroll deductions, you're going to remain a Plan E member until that contract is fulfilled. So you would be paying your normal contributions plus your other contributions, considered a Plan E member until all the Plan D contributions has been paid to LACERA. Another way that became available, I believe it was in July of 2003, is what we call a prospective plan transfer. So what that does is saying, I'm going to freeze my E-credit where I'm at, and prospectively I'm going to transfer to Plan D. You're going to go to Plan D paying a contribution based on the age at the time of the transfer. So if you started working for the county at 25 and decided to transfer to Plan D at 45, LACERA is going to take a contribution based on age 45 years old. You'd have what we call a double account, an E account and a D account. So at retirement, LACERA is going to pay you the benefits of Plan E and a Plan D all in one check, but we're going to look at the factors between the two plans differently. So age at Plan E, average salary at Plan E, service credit at Plan E, age Plan D, service credit Plan D, and salary at Plan D. Once you transfer prospectively from Plan E to D, you must remain in Plan D for 3 years prior to transferring back to Plan E, unless there's one provision, and we'll talk about that. I believe it's on the next slide. So if you go from E to D and you have to go back to E within that 3 years, we'll talk about the only provision that will allow you to go back to Plan D. You can incrementally purchase or convert all of your E credit over to D at a later date if that's something you wanted to do. So say now you have that 20 years in E and you prospectively transfer to D, but you couldn't afford to do the whole transfer at one time, but you wanted to be a Plan D member, have the benefits of Plan D members. You can later incrementally convert some of your E credit or all of your E credit over to Plan D if that's something you wanted to do. So once you do a prospective plan transfer from E to D, you will be considered a Plan D member, and you will have some rights and benefits of Plan D members, and I'll talk about the rights and the benefits in just a moment. If you are in Plan D and you no longer want to be in Plan D, you want to probably save some money or you need the money to use it for something else, you can do what we call a prospective plan transfer from Plan D to Plan E. That doesn't mean you get a refund of your Plan D contributions because you're in service, so no refund. The money stays on deposit with LACERA. The money just stays there, continues to earn interest, and your D credit freezes, and going forward, you're just no longer paying contributions and you're considered a Plan E member. Again, it's a combined benefit at retirement, and the retirement eligibility must be met for both plans before you are eligible to retire from LACERA. So this little example shows a person going from Plan E. They go to Plan D, have to stay in Plan D for 3 years. Now they decide to go back to Plan E, and they can go back to Plan E. So you can switch from D to E to D to E every 3 years. You just must remain in the plan for 3 years before you're eligible to transfer. So his question was, he's in Plan D. He decides to go to Plan E, but he has $50,000 on deposit with LACERA. When does he get the $50,000? Well, you don't get a refund of the money. What happens is the money stays on deposit, and at retirement, you're going to collect a monthly benefit from LACERA based on your Plan D service credit and your Plan E service credit. If you decided at termination to withdraw your Plan D contributions, you give up all of your rights to any retirement benefit from LACERA because it's an aggregated plan. So the plans are going to be together. So you can't say at retirement, I'm going to just take that $50,000 from LACERA and then expect LACERA to give me a benefit based on my Plan E service credit. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Because that has happened. That is really a good question. Some people have went from Plan E to D, terminated, withdrew the D contributions, and they gave up their rights to all of their retirement benefits. So whenever you withdraw your contributions from LACERA, you have given up all of your rights to any retirement benefits from LACERA altogether. Okay? If you have time and you don't to go onto our website and do not have time to go into our office, you can visit our LACERA website, www.lacera.com. There is a retirement calculator there for you to go ahead and play with your retirement and put some fictitious dates out there or ages that you think you might want to be when you retire. There's a transfer calculator. They are just estimates. They're not 100% accurate because we do have to pull all of your old payroll when we're doing these type of calculations. And there's also an ARC calculator. If you have not signed up to My LACERA, you can do that. That's through LACERA's website as well. That one will give you a better estimate of what your benefits could be, a better estimate of what the ARC is going to cost you, and or a plan transfer, because it has all of your data there. These are just based, the other websites are just based on the information that you put there. MyLacera.com actually has your age, your salary, your service credit, and again, all of this stuff must be verified through LACERA, but MyLacera actually gives you a better idea of what the cost can be. Our website also has all of our forms and brochures on there, so if you didn't have time to call us and you needed to download maybe a beneficiary form or something like that in order to send to LACERA, you can go onto our website and download the forms.